Hey everybody, my name is Steve. Those of you who are in the Sorare community know me as Ace or Aced Out. Thought I would take this opportunity to create a little content and share Sorare, not only with the community but also with a lot of my friends that are huge sports fans and also some that really enjoy playing fantasy baseball, and tell you a little bit about Sorare and Sorare MLB specifically. So I started with Sorare, at least playing Sorare, back at the beginning of their baseball launch, which was in July. And it's been a ton of fun. I've never watched so much baseball before in my entire life, which most of you who know me will think that's crazy because I'm a huge Padres fan. And now not only do I love the Padres, but I worked in radio. I covered the Padres for a long time. Not too long, but long enough. And I watch a ton of baseball anyway, but now I'm watching games all day, multiple games. I enjoy the sport even more than I thought I possibly could. So I think that what I want to be able to do with Sorare is, for my baseball fans out there who aren't necessarily playing, is just introduce you to what Sorare is, Sorare MLB. And you may have seen it on some commercials on MLB.tv. You may have seen J-Rod or Juan Soto in the last week or so running Twitter. They've been in Twitter commercials. They're running it on their Twitter. But what is it? How do you play? What's it all about? And I'm going to give you the simple version of this. And for those of you who play Sorare, this is not going to be shocking. It's not going to be a revelation. It might be a bit boring. I apologize for that. That's not my intention. But with this first video, I figured, hey, you know what? I got a lot of people that are my friends that have followed me from back in the day that are huge baseball fans and want to know about this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what Sorare MLB is, how you can play, where you need to kind of find your spot, and then I'll talk a little bit of strategy, at least how I approach it, and give you some other people that you can follow that have some great information that I follow, and I follow their information as well as follow them on social media. So what is Sorare? The way I like to explain it to people is you're buying a digital baseball card, and you're able to use that card in a fantasy baseball game that is somewhat similar to a daily fantasy sport, without being a daily fantasy sport because you don't have a wash every single day. You get your cards, and then you can play those cards essentially forever. There are different levels of cards. So when you sign up, you're going to get a budget. I believe it's 100 points. And with that budget, you can pick your players. And then you'll go ahead and take those players, put them in your lineup, and you have a common team. The best people who perform in the common levels will win limited cards. And it works, it's kind of like stakes. When you play, if you've ever played FanDuel or DraftKings, you play in different level of stakes. So you might play a $2 game or a $5 game or a $15 or a $25 or a $500 game. It's very similar with Sorare in the fact that you can play common for free. You can try it before you buy it, have a good time. I know a lot of people who just play commons. The lineups reset every year, the cards reset every year, and you just go ahead and everybody's on an even playing field week one. There's nothing wrong with that. I know when I started, I played commons for a few weeks to kind of feel things out. The next level is limiteds, and those will be the gold cards that you see. Then you've got rares, super rares, and uniques. It's important that once you progress past common, that you find a level that you feel comfortable at. Meaning, these cards cost money. If you want to buy a limited or a rare or a super rare or a unique, they're going to cost money. Now, when you put your lineup together, it doesn't cost you any money to enter these contests. But you do need to buy the cards, with the exception of the commons, of course, that you get for free when you join. With your $100 points, or your $100, your 100 points, you pick your team, you enter common, you can play common on season, no problem. It's plenty of fun. You can put together team stacks. You can just pick whoever you think are the best players, and then you win better players and improve your lineup. That's great. If you want to play limiteds, then you go to the marketplace or the auctions, and that's where you'll buy limiteds, rares, super rares, and uniques, and you'll compete in those competitions. Like I mentioned, It's free to compete in the competitions. The cards, however, are not free. So how do you put together your lineup? Let me back up just a little bit. The lineup's pretty simple. Starting pitcher, relief pitcher, corner infielder, which is either a first baseman, a third baseman, or a designated hitter. Then you've got your middle infield, second base, shortstop, catcher, and then an outfield position. So that's 5 positions, plus you get 1 utility bat, and your last position is either a bat or a pitcher. You can pick whoever you want. It's like a wild card. Some people like to play starting pitcher, relief pitcher, your 3 pieces, your utility bat, and then a starting pitcher. Some people want the other bat in there. Some of it depends on matchups, some of it depends on games, but you find out what works for you. I waver back and forth between the two, to be honest with you. So you know how to put your team together. You got a starting pitcher, relief pitcher, first baseman, or I should say corner infielder, middle infielder, outfielder, utility, and a starting pitcher. For example, I have a super rare team. My super rare lineup this week, starting pitcher is Jacob deGrom. Relief pitcher is Ryan Presley. My corner infielder is Rafael Devers. My middle infielder is Xander Bogaerts. My outfielder is Julio Rodriguez. In the utility spot, I am playing Shohei Ohtani. And in my second utility spot, I believe I've got Justin Verlander. So we'll see how that goes. By the way, that is not locked in. The likelihood that I change that is very high. I'm playing 2 super rare competitions and 4 rare competitions. Now, when you put your lineup together, you're going to have up until, I believe, 10 minutes prior to the first game starting till your lineup locks in. So just because you put your lineup in and you want to play around with it, that's okay. You can do that. You can also change it. So 10 minutes prior, go and change it. I would suggest not waiting until the last minute. It's not a great idea. The great thing about baseball, as opposed to basketball and playing Sorare MLB, is that for the most part, you can lock your lineup in days ahead of time. Barring any injury, you're fine. You know who you're going to play. Not a lot's going to change. You're okay. As opposed to in the NBA, when you've got guys who with injury management, obviously those things do happen to a certain degree in MLB, but it's not on a regular basis. You know that MLB guys, for the most part, unless they're hurt, they're going to play 150 to 155 games, outside of catchers, of course. So your hitters are going to play those games. That's great. You don't have a problem with that. You can set it and forget it most times. And with MLB, a lot of times I will. I don't think a lot of things are going to change. If a guy gets hot, maybe you want to switch something up. But for the most part, you get your guys. Those are your dudes you're rolling with throughout the season. Those are your ride or die guys. This offseason, for example, and I'll give you a little background. When I started with Sorare, I started in the common games. And that was where I felt comfortable. I really wanted to try this out. Plus, when I looked at the auction prices, I had sticker shock. I was like, man, these guys are spending some big money on these cards. And I don't really know anything about Sorare. The funny thing is, the guys who were spending a bunch of the money who had been playing Sorare football, which they refer to as football. I refer to as soccer. Either way, same sport that we all know. But they've been playing in the Sorare football circles for 3 years. So they understood Sorare. They trusted Sorare. They knew the process. I did not know Sorare. I felt a little uncomfortable. And I decided I'm going to play Commons for a few weeks, see how I like it. So I did. And I played Commons, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to up the stakes a little bit. And I started buying some limited cards. Bought some limited cards, entered competitions, slowly but surely. When I looked at it, I started entering, by the end of the season, I was entering super rare competitions, rare and limited. The important thing is, and this is one thing I always tell people, find your comfort level and play at that level. Kind of find your lane. That's all you want to do. You want to find your lane. It's so rare, and it might be rares. It could just be limiteds. It could be super rares. Whatever your budget is that you feel comfortable spending on these digital baseball cards, find that area and then stick in that. What most people do, like I did, is they start off, they buy some limiteds, and then they get more competitive, or they want to win more. and they start buying rares and they start buying super rares, as opposed to in the beginning, if you would have just bought rares in the beginning, it would have been a lot easier for you to accumulate a better team. I, for some reason, am not someone who does that. Maybe you are. Good for you. It takes me time to kind of put a toe in, put a foot in, put a leg in. And then, of course, now I'm in. I'm totally in. So what do you do with your cards after you play? So you play, they accumulate points based on performance. Guy hits a home run, a double, strikeout, caught stealing, stolen base. It's just like fantasy baseball. You're accumulating points based upon offensive performance. The team that scores the most points wins. It's that simple. However, they're not the only person who wins. If you enter a limited competition, you may have 2,000 people that enter. You might have 500 people of those 2,000 that win. They're all not going to win the best card. So what happens is, based on where you are in the standings, determines the level of card that you win. And all the players are broken up into tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. Based on where you finish, if you finish in the rewards levels, you'll win one of those tiers. So what could happen is you put your team together, you have a great week, you end up finishing in the top 3 and you win a Tier 1 limited. Great. What does that mean? Well, what's going to happen is the next day, so if for this opening weekend, for example, you would play Thursday through Sunday. Now that's not typical. Normally it's Friday through Sunday. But you play your first game week, which would be Thursday through Sunday. And then Monday morning, you'll get an email that says, hey, your rewards are ready. You go onto the website, you open up your reward, it kind of spins around a little bit, it shows you with the team, it shows you the position, and then boom, it shows you the player. So maybe you want a Tier 1 and it's spinning, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, San Diego, outfield, boom, Juan Soto. That can happen. I mean, I've also had days that aren't so great where you win a Tier 4 and you're like, who is this guy? I have no idea who this is. And then you look on the marketplace and you go, okay, sure, $5, let me throw him on the marketplace. Which leads me to, what do you do after you win? So you won rewards. Fantastic. Congratulations. That is awesome. It's a great feeling. Even if you win a Tier 5, it's better than not winning anything. But Tier 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rewards day is always exciting. So you win your reward and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with it. Well, there are some people that every time they win a reward, they put it on the marketplace and they liquidate. There's nothing wrong with that. You can liquidate that. You put the cash, leave it in your wallet, no problem. You can keep the card, and some people just keep them forever and ever and ever. And there's nothing wrong with that. They never touch their galleries. You can keep the card. It could be an upgrade. If it's an upgrade, fantastic. If it's not, you just want to keep it for some depth, that's okay too. You might upgrade and then sell the guy that you had in that spot. That's okay. But you do have options. That's the great thing about Sorare. You're constantly building up your gallery. You're building up your bench, so to speak. And if you feel like you don't need a lot of depth, then you can just go ahead and liquidate it because somebody else is going to need that card to be able to enter the competitions. So let me talk a little bit about strategy, because I think that this is a question I get from people in terms of, hey, do you like to stack players? What do you like to do? So I think the difference is, and by the way, that's my dog, if you can hear that in the background. I think stacking is great if you fit into 1 to 2 scenarios. And when I say stacking, I mean, you say, hey, I'm gonna go all in with the Blue Jays this week. And you get as many of the Blue Jay guys as you can put in the lineup. You can't put the entire Jays, your entire lineup can't be Blue Jays. You have to have at least one person from a different team. But if you say, hey, I'm gonna go hardcore Blue Jays, so I'm gonna put Kirk and Vladdy and Bichette and Chapman and Springer, and I'm going to start somebody random, and then my relief pitcher is going to be Romano. But you went hard with the Blue Jays. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, you pretty much need to be in 1 or 2 situations. Now, I will tell you, most stacks are cheaper than just buying the best players. It also can give you a strategic advantage certain weeks depending on how many games that your team plays that week. With that being said, the other side of the coin is if you invest into a stack and your team doesn't play, or your team has a rain out, then your stack can get crushed. So it's very, I wouldn't say it's high risk, high reward, but it's moderate risk, moderate reward when you do that. There's definitely a lot of upside to it if you can stack. So you're either stacking if you're working within a budget. You say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and spend $100 on a limited team. I need to work in a budget. That probably takes me out of a handful of guys, but maybe I can put together a stack for the Rangers, or maybe I can put together a stack for the Indians. Something where you're not gonna have like that one guy that's gonna be like J-Rod or Soto or Acuna, who's gonna, like a Brave stack is very expensive. But that's the way to work the stack. The other way, outside of just working in a limited budget, the other way you're stacking is you just have an absurd amount of cards. You like to collect cards, you've got team sets, that's what you're doing. That's great as well, because it always makes it easy. The only challenge is you can only play so many cards. There's only so many competitions. So you have a lot of players that you're putting in training every week to build up their extra points, their XP as it's known. And I think the stacks are fine. I personally don't play a lot of stacks. I like to play best player available. And I like to play with guys that I like to watch. So when I tell you my team, and I've got Xander Bogaerts, and I've got Bo Bichette, and Julio Rodriguez, and Rafael Devers, you'll notice there's a trend there. A lot of them are young. I think Xander Bogaerts probably the exception there. But Rafael Devers, Bo Bichette, Julio Rodriguez, all young guys. That's where I invest. And or I should say that's where I spend. Because those are the guys that I plan on watching for the next 5, 7, 10 years while I'm playing Sorare. Guys like Xander Bogaerts are great because I'm a Padre fan. So I want to watch Xander. I want to root for him. I'm going to watch the game anyway. That's great. But I like to play the best player. So if I'm playing, once in a while, I will go a little heavy. So I know this week on one of my teams, I can't tell you which one because I can't remember right now. But I know one of my teams has somewhat of an Astros stack. And I was thinking about that ahead of time. Unfortunately, Jose Altuve got hurt, so it kind of messed with the stack a little bit, but I'm still going to start Jordan, I'm going to start Bregman, and I'm going to start Tucker. So I'll fill in, I believe, actually Bichette is filling in for Altuve in that spot this game week. So it depends, but the reality of it is when I look at guys like Jordan, Tucker, and Bregman, they're also some of the best players. So for me, yes, if you can work out a stack and it's the best players, that's ideal. But it doesn't always work that way, and that's okay. Especially if you're working within a budget, that stack system works out fantastic. So I'm gonna wrap this up. I gave you some info. More than happy to ping me if you wanna hit me up on Twitter at SoRareAces. Most of you follow on my personal Twitter as well. Feel free to come over. I'm happy to answer any questions. I am not the end-all be-all when it comes to lineups or answers. I will tell you that personally, I use Sorare data a ton. Also, I'm a member of Sorare FP, and I would strongly encourage, if you want to take this seriously, and obviously none of this is financial advice, but if you want to be able to do the minimal amount of effort and take this seriously and have success, and basically have someone who just gives you a spreadsheet that you can plug your players into and it tells you who to play, Sorare FP is fantastic for that. So I would definitely check those out. They're both great follows. They're both great resources. I utilize them all the time. I know baseball. I love baseball. I'm happy to talk baseball anytime. And that's what most of these videos are going to be, is me randomly talking baseball about who's hot, what's going on, what's fun, who won this week. But I think that's what really Sorare does, is it brings excitement and it brings passion out of baseball fans. And it makes a lot of people who aren't necessarily baseball fans turn into baseball fans. Guys that have been playing football, guys that have been playing in the NBA, guys overseas. I cannot tell you how many times on Discord somebody will hit me up about one of my cards and they're like, hey mate. And as an American, I'm not used to that. So obviously we know right off the bat, or I know right off the bat, like, hey, this guy's not in the States. But that's kind of the cool thing, is you get to meet all these people from around the world who are becoming baseball fans. But I love to talk baseball. I'm happy to talk baseball. I have strong opinions, as most of you will know. If you don't know already, you're going to find out if you watch these videos. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is this year my strategy is to focus on super rare and to focus on rares. I have no interest in playing limiteds. With that being said, I'm a bit of a collector. So I have a Padres team set. And I sold off the majority of my limiteds in the off season. And I took those funds and I moved them over into rare and super rare. But I still have some limiteds. Some guys that I just weren't willing to sell at the price they were at, like CJ Cron and Luis Robert. But I happen to have a Padre team set. So I have a bunch of cards that I still have that I'm not going to get rid of, that I need to use. So I'm going to be entering limited competitions, but I don't care about it. So what I'm going to do is people who follow on Twitter, people who are in my Discord, people who are part of our Facebook groups, I'm going to pick people every week, every game week. Keep in mind, game weeks run twice a week, Monday through Thursday, Friday through Sunday. So I'm going to randomly pick people, most likely people who are already playing, and they already have their teams, and I can check it out and see how it would benefit them, those kind of things. I'm going to pick people who I think cards would benefit. And any limited 3, 4, or 5 that I win this season will be given to those people who follow. So I'm going to try, this is not going to be easy, but I'm going to try to pick people ahead of time and designate and say, hey, John from Australia, you're going to be our limited American League co-owner this week. And I'll put the lineup together, and then John from Australia can go ahead and follow that team like it's his team, because if we win a tier 3, 4, or 5, then I'm going to send that card over to him. And hopefully it'll help improve his lineup. But I'm going to do that all season. Now, the reason I say I'm going to try is it is a little time consuming finding the co-captains, so to speak. So I'm going to see how this goes the first couple weeks. What I might end up doing, if it's too time consuming, is I'll just win the prizes and randomly draw people and send the prizes over. But I do think there is a special element to having someone that you're kind of in the trenches with, in the street fighting with, and you have somebody that is also rooting with you because they want to win stuff. And hopefully it might even convert a few people over to being Padres fans. Maybe people who are just getting into Sorare, haven't really played Sorare MLB, they're looking for a team. I've got a ton of Padres, so there's going to be a lot of reason to watch. So hopefully we'll be able to do that this season. If you have any questions, I encourage you to ping me on Discord. You can find me. I'm aced out. I'm super easy to find. You can also hit me up on Twitter at SoRareAces. We are going to be giving away some merch this year. You probably noticed there's a bunch of merch. I happen to run an apparel company. We are the only single licensee for MLB players headwear. So we're going to be giving stuff away like Shohei Ohtani hats, like Juan Soto, Aaron Judge. We, of course, are going to have some aced out caps as well, like this bad boy. So we're going to be doing some of that stuff as well. As soon as we can get the Play with Friends group set up, we'll start doing some fun things like that as well. So if you have any questions, I encourage you, please get in touch with me. If you saw the video, awesome. Let me know you saw it. Feel free to give me feedback. I'm sure it's terrible, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Thanks for watching, and good luck in 2023.